Ever scratched your head at why a relationship ended? Maybe even one of your own.
I think we all have at some point.
Well, today you've handed us a fascinating collection of, let's call them unconventional breakup reasons.
Indeed, this is quite the assortment of human experiences you've shared with us. It promises to be a revealing exploration.
You sent over this amazing thread of real-life stories, people looking back on some of the more, shall we say, memorable reasons for calling it quits.
Memorable is one word for it. Some sound quite bizarre.
Some of these are truly head-scratchers. Our mission, to wade through these anecdotes, pull out the surprising insights, and maybe even stumble upon some unexpected truths about the real nuts and bolts of what holds a relationship together.
And, well, what makes it fall apart?
Exactly.
Oh.
Okay, so to kick things off, the first pattern I noticed was this tension between we and I. You know, how much of the relationship was a shared experience versus individual perspectives clashing.
That's a very insightful starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interplay between individual needs and that shared identity is often right at the heart of relationship dynamics.
Right. We have this story about someone whose partner was all about the we, only when their fantasy football team was winning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, quote, I thought we were in this together. And the reply was, only when we're winning. They're on their own when they lose.
Wow.
You know how it is when one person's enthusiasm for something doesn't quite meet the others?
Mm-hmm.
But this felt like a really stark illustration of like a self-serving approach to partnership.
It really does highlight a potentially transactional view of the relationship. Ideally, partnership involves shared highs and lows, right?
Sure.
This example suggests a conditional unity focused primarily on celebrating personal success under the guise of togetherness. Makes you wonder about the balance of give and take in that relationship overall.
Definitely. Then you have the complete flip side. We heard about a guy in his mid-20s who dumped a perfectly attractive woman because she, and I have to read this exactly, had the potential to get fat. His friend is apparently still shaking his head over it.
Oh, come on.
It almost feels like projecting future insecurities onto someone else, doesn't it?
It's remarkably superficial and frankly unkind. It speaks to a preoccupation with an idealized, maybe unrealistic physical image and a failure to accept the natural fluctuations of the human body.
Totally.
What's particularly striking, though, is the dark humor that followed in the comments. Those suggestions about preferring someone with a terminal illness or tapeworms.
Right. That really jumped out.
But that extreme sarcasm really underscores the perceived absurdity and cruelty of the initial justification. It makes you think about the pressure and, well, unrealistic expectations some people bring into relationships.
It's such a leap to those grim scenarios, but it really slams home how ridiculous the potential to get fat reason sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't that a potential we all carry? It's part of being human.
Precisely. It reflects a fundamental lack of acceptance and understanding of the human condition. This also brings up an important point about the conditions we place on love and acceptance in a partnership.
Then there was the pizza crust saga. Someone ended things because their partner ate the pizza crust first.
The crust first.
Yep, declaring it a red flag for how she approaches life. The wonderfully direct response was, she approaches life ass first.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
Which, yeah, is funny. But the pizza crust as some kind of profound indicator of life philosophy, that's a new one for me.
It certainly is an unusual metric for compatibility. However, while it seems lighthearted on the surface, it might point to a deeper perception of fundamental differences in approach.
You think?
Maybe. Perhaps one person values tradition or a certain order, while the other prioritizes immediate satisfaction or simply does things differently. It's probably not really about the crust itself,
Ah, okay.
but what that small act symbolized to the person who ended the relationship. It raises the question of how we interpret seemingly minor differences in our partners.
So it's less about the carbs and more about the perceived mindset behind the crust consumption. Interesting.
Could be.
Speaking of fundamental differences in mindset and lifestyle, let's dive into the realm of hobbies, habits, and those quirky little hang-ups that can apparently be enough to derail a relationship.
This is where the rubber meets the road in terms of daily life, isn't it? Our habits and hobbies often reflect core aspects of our identity, and clashes in these areas can create significant friction.
Totally. We had the epic tale of the Horde versus Alliance breakup.
Yeah.
Now, for those not immersed in the world of Azeroth, we're talking World of Warcraft.
Oh, wow.
My buddy's buddy back in 2011 apparently got dumped because he wouldn't switch from the Horde faction to the Alliance faction to raid with his girlfriend.
Ooh, faction loyalty. That's serious business in WoW W.
Yeah, for dedicated WoW players, that's...
I like that.
Well, this is pretty significant commitment, apparently. They're incompatible, as someone succinctly put it.
For serious players, guild affiliations and faction loyalty aren't just about a game. They represent community, shared goals, a significant part of their social identity. Refusing to switch could be interpreted as a lack of commitment.
Right?
Not just to the game, but to their shared social circle and a fundamental aspect of their partner's life. It really highlights how deeply ingrained these online communities can become.
Then there was the vinyl-only music snobbery. Someone called it quits with a person who declared, "I don't listen to music that's not on vinyl."
Oh boy.
The commenter quite rightly noted, "I don't need that much snobbery in my life." It really brings up how lifestyle choices can be perceived in this case as pretentious and exclusionary. Creates a barrier rather than a shared interest.
Exactly. While a passion for vinyl is perfectly legitimate, the absolute dismissal of all other formats can easily be perceived as judgmental, unwilling to engage with the other person's preferences, or even just the practicalities of modern music consumption.
Yeah, like streaming or MP3s.
Right. It speaks to a potential lack of open-mindedness.
We also had the rather unfortunate fishing allergy situation.
Oh.
Someone broke up with their partner who was obsessed with fishing and wanted all their dates to involve it, despite the fact that the other person was allergic to fish.
Oh, no. That's terrible.
Someone commented that it was absolutely doomed from the start. A bit. Shellfish of him, perhaps.
Yes, well put. That's a clear instance of fundamental incompatibility and a significant lack of consideration for a partner's health and well-being.
You'd think that would be obvious.
While shared activities are important, they absolutely need to be inclusive and respectful of individual limitations. It raises the question of how much one person expects a partner to adapt to their lifestyle, regardless of the consequences.
And then we ventured into the often debated realm of astrology.
Yes. Always a fun one.
One of you shared that your sorority sister dumped a great guy because he was a Gemini.
A Gemini, oh dear.
Believing their planet rotations were going to be out of sync. She apparently couldn't handle that uncertainty.
After how long?
2 months, apparently. The reactions were pretty varied, from he dodged a bullet to concerns about taking astrology way too seriously.
Astrology's influence in relationships is certainly a divisive topic. While some people find it a fun lens through which to view compatibility, others, as in this case, use it as a basis for significant life decisions.
Even when things seem good otherwise.
Exactly. Even when there appears to be a positive connection otherwise. The fact that they had enjoyed 2 months together before the astrological sign became an issue really underscores how external belief systems can sometimes override personal experience and genuine rapport.
It really does make you wonder what other seemingly arbitrary lines people draw in the sand. But moving on to some more abrupt and, in some cases, quite serious examples. Let's talk about when life throws those unexpected curveballs.
And apparently toasters.
Oh, maybe not toasters specifically, but yeah. Life events, both significant and seemingly minor, can indeed act as catalysts for reevaluating a relationship and revealing underlying fault lines.
Absolutely. They can put things into sharp focus.
We had this truly shocking story connecting 9/11 to a divorce.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Someone shared that the events of that day led their dad to ask for a divorce with the incredibly blunt and, well, darkly humorous comment, "Babe, these people are falling out of that building like how I'm falling out of love with you."
Oh my God. That's horrific.
It's a stark and unsettling example of a major external event triggering a very personal and, frankly, deeply insensitive revelation.
It's a profoundly disturbing illustration of using a national tragedy to articulate personal unhappiness. It speaks to a deep emotional disconnect that likely predated the event, but the sheer gravity of the situation seems to have brought it to a brutal and insensitive head.
Just awful timing and phrasing.
It makes you consider how major life events can sometimes accelerate underlying relationship issues, sometimes in really ugly ways.
On a slightly less intense note, we heard about friends breaking up purely because they supported rival football teams.
Rival teams, really.
Apparently, these were people in their 20s. Someone even referenced a street interview where fans claimed they'd rather be cheated on than see their rival team win.
Wow. That's some serious dedication. Sports rivalries can indeed be intensely felt, deeply intertwined with personal and social identity.
Seems a bit extreme for a relationship, though.
For some, maybe supporting a rival team does represent a fundamental difference in values or a perceived lack of understanding of something they hold incredibly dear. It highlights how seemingly external affiliations can sometimes have a significant impact on personal relationships.
Then there was the breakup attributed to he's always got his nose in a book,
Wait, that's a bad thing.
which personally sounds like a great quality. And another listener pointed out that this man hadn't always been a reader, so the relationship actually fostered positive personal growth.
So he got better, and she left him.
Seems like it. It's a funny one. A seemingly beneficial habit becoming the reason for a split.
It really highlights that what one person values in a partner, another might perceive as a negative. Perhaps the partner felt ignored, or that their need for shared activities wasn't being met.
Maybe.
It underscores the importance of finding a balance between individual pursuits and quality time together, and the potential for misinterpreting a partner's positive development.
And finally, in this category, the aversion to too spicy food, which in this case was, wait for it, spaghetti bolognese.
Bolognese. Spicy.
And lasagna and garlic bread. The person wisely decided against a second date.
I don't blame them.
It does make you think about how fundamental compatibility can be in everyday things like food preferences, especially when one person's definition of spicy is so extraordinarily mild.
Shared meals are often a cornerstone of a relationship, right? And while minor differences can usually be navigated, significantly different palates can lead to ongoing friction in daily life and shared experiences.
Like ordering takeout or going on vacation.
Exactly. It's about more than just taste. It's about the practicalities of sharing meals and potentially even travel and social events.
Absolutely. Now, let's move into an area I think a lot of us can relate to. The boundaries we establish. And the often hilarious or maybe infuriating ways our partners manage to cross them.
Ah, yes. The fascinating territory of personal pet peeves and those invisible lines we draw in our relationships. Sometimes it's the seemingly smallest infractions that can have the biggest impact.
We had the classic, the metal fork scraping a nonstick pan.
Oh, the cardinal sin.
A friend ended a relationship over this, and the overwhelming response in the comments was totally justified. Somebody even confessed to hiding the damaged pan until after the breakup.
I can understand that.
It seems some boundaries, particularly those concerning kitchenware, are truly sacrosanct.
It really speaks to a fundamental level of respect for someone else's belongings and the care they invest in them, doesn't it? The repeated use of a metal fork on a nonstick surface can be perceived as careless, disrespectful of their property, and the effort they put into maintaining it.
Then there's what I'd call a modern relationship sin. Watching the next episode of a show without your partner.
Oh, the Netflix betrayal.
Someone's friend broke up with their boyfriend over this, labeling it emotional betrayal. I have to admit, I'm somewhat on her side with this one. It disrupts a shared experience.
In our era of binge watching, this has indeed become a surprisingly common source of conflict. It absolutely disrupts a mutual activity and can feel like a breach of an unspoken agreement to experience the story together.
Totally.
It touches on issues of consideration and shared enjoyment.
We also encountered the very specific pea-eating methodology, one at a time versus scooping corn.
Peas, one at a time.
Yes. It sounds incredibly trivial, but the person explained that it revealed a deeper underlying annoyance. It's those tiny, seemingly insignificant habits, isn't it?
Sometimes seemingly minor habits can become magnified if they consistently grate on someone's nerves over time. It might not be the pea eating itself, but what it symbolizes to the individual may be a lack of awareness, or just like a fundamental difference in how they approach even the smallest tasks.
The Ren Fair wench objection was an interesting one.
Okay.
Someone broke up with their boyfriend, partly because he refused to attend the Renaissance Fair, specifically because he disliked how women were referred to as wenches.
Ah, I see.
It's a blend of personal preference and a principled stance, which I can definitely appreciate.
It illustrates how personal values and comfort levels, even in seemingly lighthearted settings, can significantly influence relationship compatibility. It shows a consideration for broader social issues and a personal boundary around language.
Then we had a more serious example. The didn't start with God breakup. A person ended a relationship with a friend stating, "We didn't start this relationship with God." This really underscores how deeply held religious or spiritual beliefs can be fundamental deal breakers for some individuals.
Absolutely. Core religious or spiritual beliefs often play a central role in people's lives, shaping their values and expectations for a partner. A significant divergence on this fundamental level can indeed create seemingly insurmountable challenges for some.
The universally recognized breadcrumbs in the butter container.
Oh, the horror.
Yes. Someone simply listed this as a reason for a breakup, and the internet responded with emphatic agreement. I'd commit murder over this. Valid.
It is visceral.
It's those small, repeated acts of inconsideration that can really get under your skin and signal a lack of awareness or care.
It's a classic example of a minor habit that can signify a lack of consideration for shared resources and household harmony. These small things can often feel symbolic of a larger dynamic within the relationship.
Even the Android versus iPhone debate made an appearance.
Seriously, green bubbles.
Someone was dumped for using an Android, highlighting the surprisingly strong opinions and even social pressure surrounding phone choices. The dreaded ugly green bubbles even got a mention as a social barrier.
Wow. Technology has become so intertwined with our social interactions that even preferences as seemingly trivial as phone operating systems can be perceived as barriers to seamless communication and integration within social groups.
However superficial that might seem.
Exactly. It's pretty superficial.
And who could forget the constant replay of the Jock Jams compilation CD in the car?
Oh, no. Not Jock Jams.
That repetitive auditory experience was apparently enough to bring a relationship to its end. I can certainly sympathize. Constantly being subjected to disliked music can be quite grating.
Shared experiences, even mundane ones like car rides, contribute significantly to the overall relationship dynamic. A consistent clash in preferences for something like music can lead to persistent irritation and a feeling of not being heard or considered.
Using BBQ prongs to reach items on high shelves
Resourceful.
led to a breakup because it made the partner realize how short the other person was.
Wait, because of the prongs?
Yeah, an unexpected consequence of creative problem solving. Someone rightly commented, her loss.
It's a fascinating example of how seemingly innocuous actions can trigger underlying insecurities or perceptions about oneself, which are then projected onto the partner. Very strange.
The intentional act of farting in someone's face.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yes, that's a pretty clear violation of personal boundaries. Unsurprisingly, the prevailing reaction was one of understandable disgust. I'm rather surprised it happened more than once.
That's a blatant display of disrespect and a complete disregard for personal space and basic hygiene. It's difficult to imagine a healthy relationship thriving in the face of such behavior. Just no.
Then there was the mutual ghosting over Pokemon Go sounds.
Mutual ghosting, how does that work?
Two people who had rekindled a relationship after a previous ghosting incident then ghosted each other again because one was playing Pokemon Go with the sound on while they were sharing AirPods.
Oh my gosh, while sharing AirPods.
The lack of consideration is truly astounding. Playing Pokemon Go with the sound on during shared AirPods, that does sound a bit inconsiderate.
It really underscores a lack of awareness and consideration for the other person's experience, especially during a shared activity. The repeated ghosting suggests a deeper pattern of communication breakdown and avoidance of direct conversation.
Ah, the heartbreak over stolen fried potatoes.
Joey doesn't share food.
Exactly. Someone ended a relationship because their partner repeatedly ate their fries without asking. Petty? Perhaps. Relatable. Absolutely.
Definitely relatable.
It's about respecting those small personal boundaries, even with something as seemingly minor as a few French fries.
It's often less about the fries themselves and more about the underlying principle, isn't it? Respect for personal boundaries and showing consideration for another person's preferences, no matter how seemingly insignificant they might appear.
On a more serious note, the inability to fondle or play with my breasts was a direct and understandably upsetting reason for a breakup.
Right, that's not humorous at all.
No. It speaks to a fundamental lack of intimacy, connection, and potentially even a deeper discomfort or issue there.
Intimacy and physical affection are crucial components of many romantic relationships. A partner's inability or unwillingness to engage in this way can lead to feelings of rejection, disconnection, and raise serious questions about the nature of the relationship.
The snot blowing from the mall incident is both slightly comical and, as someone commented, entirely valid.
What happened?
Leaning over a railing and expelling a giant wad of snot onto unsuspecting people below.
Ew.
No, that's a level of public indecency that might indeed warrant an immediate and permanent exit from the relationship.
That's a clear demonstration of poor judgment and a profound lack of consideration for public decorum and the well-being of others. Yeah, that could certainly be indicative of broader character traits and a lack of empathy. Deal breaker.
Agreed. Now, let's move into the more subtle shifts and those unexpected realizations that can signal the end of a relationship. These aren't always dramatic confrontations, but rather quieter moments of clarity or growing senses of disconnect.
Yes, these often involve a gradual erosion of connection or maybe a sudden, stark realization that fundamental needs or desires are not being met within the partnership.
We had a really touching story about a lack of shared enthusiasm. Someone realized they longed to share their weirdness with a partner who found it endearing, not just something to tolerate.
Ah, that's important.
The catalyst was a road trip chasing thunderstorms. It really speaks to the fundamental human desire to be truly seen and accepted for who you are, quirks and all.
That's a beautiful insight into the essential need for mutual appreciation and genuine support for each other's passions and individualities. A healthy relationship should provide a safe space where you can be your authentic self and have that be celebrated, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Then came a truly unexpected revelation.
Ah.
Friends in high school who had been dating for a while discovered, thanks to their grandma,
Oh, no.
that they were actually cousins.
Oh, wow. Really?
Well, that's certainly a relationship deal breaker that's hard to argue with.
That's a rather dramatic and, one would hope, relatively rare reason for a relationship to end. Discovering close familial ties can certainly present an insurmountable obstacle to a romantic relationship. Yikes.
Pickle breath aversion.
Pickle breath.
Someone ended things because their partner's persistent pickle consumption rendered them, in their eyes, utterly unkissable. It seems some sensory deal breakers are just non-negotiable boundaries.
Sensory aversions can be incredibly powerful and deeply personal. If a particular smell or taste creates a significant barrier to intimacy and affection, it can understandably become a relationship-ending factor. I get that.
The bomb threat that led to a coworker hookup was quite a story.
A bomb threat led to a hookup.
She broke up with her boyfriend via text and then slept with a colleague in his car, explaining that she realized how short life could be.
Okay. The logic there is debatable, to say the least.
Right. That's a rather extreme and arguably impulsive reaction to a stressful event.
It suggests a potential lack of commitment to the existing relationship and a questionable approach to navigating difficult emotions.
Language sensitivity made an appearance with a too vulgar breakup. Apparently, frequent use of the word cunt was a deal breaker for one partner.
Ah, yeah, that's a strong word for many.
It really highlights how different our comfort levels can be with certain language and how that can impact intimacy.
Communication styles and language use are important aspects of relationship compatibility. If one partner consistently uses language that the other finds offensive or deeply uncomfortable, it can create a significant and persistent divide.
The disastrous rent-a-center spending spree. This one was a wild ride.
Rent-a-center? Oh, dear.
Someone's partner blew their entire joint savings and tax refund on rented furniture, leading to the loss of a car down payment and an apartment, not to mention the person's new job.
Oh my God, that's catastrophic.
The breakup was immediate, and most would agree, entirely justified. That's beyond a quirky reason. It's a major breach of trust and financial irresponsibility with severe consequences.
That transcends a simple disagreement. It represents a fundamental betrayal of trust and a shocking display of incredibly poor financial judgment with devastating repercussions for both individuals.
The decision to end the relationship under those circumstances is entirely understandable.
Wow. Career choice and compatibility also surfaced. One person was dumped because their partner couldn't handle them working with other men or traveling for work,
despite engaging in the same activities themselves.
Oh, a double standard.
A
Classic.
classic case of a glaring double standard.
Jealousy and insecurity can manifest in controlling behaviors and unrealistic expectations regarding a partner's professional life. Mutual respect for each other's careers and professional boundaries is absolutely essential for a healthy and equitable relationship.
A friend ended a relationship with a great girl simply because she didn't have a college degree,
Serious.
even though she had a better job.
But she had a better job.
That really smacks of judgment and a rather superficial assessment of someone's worth, doesn't it?
Placing such a strong emphasis on formal education as a prerequisite for a relationship, especially when the partner is demonstrably successful in their chosen career, suggests a rigid and potentially elitist perspective that overlooks other valuable qualities.
The sneeze-induced ick.
The ick from a sneeze.
A girl broke up with her boyfriend because his sneeze apparently gave her the ick. Sometimes those involuntary visceral reactions can be surprisingly powerful and seemingly irrational deal breakers.
Huh. Attraction and repulsion can be influenced by a wide range of factors, some of which may seem minor or even illogical to an outsider. While perhaps not entirely rational, these visceral reactions can be deeply felt and difficult to ignore, I suppose. The ick is real for some people.
Aggressively shutting off the AC in the car, followed by an angry glare.
Ooh, that sounds confrontational.
Was enough for someone to end an 8-month relationship. It was interpreted as a disturbing preview of potential future controlling behavior.
I can see that.
That's definitely a chilly way to end things, both literally and figuratively.
It's about respecting a partner's comfort and preferences, especially in shared spaces like a car.
Yeah.
An aggressive action coupled with an angry reaction could indeed be perceived as a red flag, indicating a lack of consideration and potentially controlling tendencies down the line. Good call, maybe.
The lack of empathy after a stepdad's death is truly heartbreaking.
Oh, that's tough.
Someone's girlfriend broke up with them, stating it was too much stress for her and she couldn't handle it.
Wow, during their grief.
Yes. The stark realization of her lack of care was a painful but ultimately clarifying moment for the person.
In times of grief and loss, a supportive and empathetic partner is absolutely crucial. The absence of compassion and the prioritization of personal convenience in such a difficult situation reveals a significant lack of emotional depth and commitment within the relationship. That's awful.
And now we venture into truly unique territory.
Breaking up with someone for chewing too aggressively.
Aggressive chewing. How does one chew aggressively?
I don't know. Sorry for the audacity of trying to eat solid food, apparently. Though someone did rightly counter with the universally frowned upon open-mouth chewing and fork biting.
Okay, those I get.
We all have our auditory and visual pet peeves when it comes to eating.
Etiquette and personal habits, particularly around something as fundamental as eating, can certainly become sources of significant irritation in close relationships. While aggressive chewing is somewhat subjective, habits like open-mouth chewing or scraping the fork are widely considered impolite and can be a major annoyance. Then there's the unforgettable. Well, he defecated in our handbag.
What? No.
Game over indeed. As one commenter dryly noted, at least he was able to express himself.
Oh my God. Some forms of self-expression are definitely relationship ending. That's beyond words.
Right. That's an act of such bizarre and frankly offensive behavior that it's difficult to fathom any reasonable person continuing the relationship. It's a clear violation of trust and basic decency.
Absolutely game over. No question.
The husband material breakup remains a bit of a mystery, even after 2 decades.
Husband material as a reason to break up.
Yeah. Was it a compliment? An insult, implying he was boring? The prevailing theory seems to be that it implied he was the safe option she'd settle for later after sowing her wild oats.
Ouch. Yeah, that interpretation stings.
It's a rather perplexing and potentially condescending way to end a relationship. It suggests a lack of excitement or passion in the present, perhaps implying a preference for someone considered less stable or more thrilling for the time being.
Confusing and hurtful, definitely.
Summer is a time for street hockey with the boys.
Huh. Okay, if you're 12, maybe.
A perfectly reasonable explanation for ending a middle school romance, perhaps. Priorities, right?
For younger relationships, yeah, shifting priorities, evolving interests, and a desire for different experiences are quite common reasons for parting ways. Less reasonable in your 20s, perhaps?
Forgotten girlfriend.
You forgot you had a girlfriend.
Admitting you completely forgot you were dating someone just a couple of weeks after asking them out. That's remarkably inattentive and not exactly a glowing testament to your level of investment.
That degree of forgetfulness strongly suggests a significant lack of interest and investment in the relationship right from the start. It speaks volumes about the individual's priorities or lack thereof.
Chicken tenders at a nice restaurant.
Ooh, controversial.
Apparently, ordering them at a pretty decent establishment is a sign of someone lacking life experience or following questionable dating advice. Though, as someone joked, the restaurant can't be that upscale if chicken tenders are on the menu.
Fair point. It highlights a potential mismatch in expectations or experiences regarding dining etiquette and social norms. It can also be perceived as a lack of adventurousness or maybe a reluctance to embrace new experiences.
Lasagna withholding?
Withholding lasagna, like not sharing.
Ending a relationship because someone wouldn't share a piece of their lasagna. That's either extreme pettiness or perhaps a symptom of a deeper issue with sharing and generosity within the relationship.
It could be a seemingly small act that represents a larger pattern of selfishness or a lack of consideration for the other person's desires and enjoyment, even in simple things like sharing food, or maybe they were just really hungry.
Now, a darker term, being dumped for a cuter guy with blue eyes.
Okay, superficial.
Who then, unfortunately, turned out to be using meth.
Oh, wow. That took a turn.
As the original